Well, hello and good afternoon. Excited to join you today. This is Thursday, February 25th. We have a very special lecture today. Today, we are going to be talking about your very next interview and all the things that you really need to do to make sure that it's going to be an effective interview for you. Let me bring my slides up on screen here. Hi, welcome. Always good to see you guys. Interviewing is a very, very desperate situation for most folks. That's why I named this lecture Interview Intervention, because most of us, darn it, we need an intervention before our next interview happens. We're not really ready. And now with the pandemic world and quite a number of us being able to work remotely, it's all gone to video conference. And my gosh, don't we need to up our game in presentation? Watch the Presentation Guru lecture that I just gave on Tuesday. It's over my YouTube channel, also on my Facebook. But also, we have to understand that besides just presenting on video, interviewing is a chance to teach them. It's our job to teach them how to select us. That's what it is. It's about the influence that we can convey. It's about the nuance in communications. Just keep this dead center in your mind. You must teach them how to select you. You know, we often have this false idea that, well, I think they know what they would like to hire. I think they have a rough sketch. Maybe they have a title. Maybe they even have some financial parameters. Let me get a little bit of coffee here that they might like to stay within. But honestly, they don't really know what they want to hire until they see it, till they kick the tires. Then they go, oh, that's what I'd like to hire. So I hope you also don't get too distracted by things like the job posting. If you think you're right for this job, you should understand that you're right for this job and understand how to move that forward. How are you going to, in the interview process, not only be this person that is interchangeable, cookie cutter capable, but my gosh, if you're only those things, if you're interchangeable, cookie cutter capable, I am going to pay you less. You don't want less, you don't want less. Well, someone else in this line is taking less. You're all interchangeable, I'm paying you less. That's the way it works. You have to be not only interchangeable, capable, and qualified, goes without saying, you also somehow have to position yourself as different, exceptional. That's how you get more responsibility or a different set of responsibility. And that's how you get a different compensation package, which is very, very important in the interview process. Now, if you have not seen me before, John Crant, author, career coach, and speaker, a resume and LinkedIn guru as well. So if your resume is not singing your praises, elevating your brand the way it needs to be among your competitors, or if your LinkedIn profile has not developed into that three-dimensional sales brochure that it really needs to be to position and sell you, gosh, think you know a pretty good career coach to work with. All my packages are up on my website, SelfRecruiter. You can take a look there. A lot of great ideas in my book, not everything in the book, but it is a wonderful, wonderful roadmap of how to navigate the entire job search process, including how to negotiate and what do I do if they give me a bad offer and how do I renegotiate that without misstepping. A few other resources that'll help you. You can go to watch my SelfRecruiter LinkedIn lecture. This is how to build your profile into a three-dimensional sales brochure. It is free right on my SelfRecruiter website, about halfway down the page. You can see me large. You can see the slides large, whatever is comfortable and right for you. It'll help you as a step-by-step tutorial. If it becomes overwhelming, gosh, I think you know where a great coach is to help you elevate your resume or LinkedIn. A few other things, 5 keys to supercharging your job search. That'll really help you make sure you invest your time wisely. How to avoid the biggest mistake, which is not investing your time wisely. And how your resume does not become resume roadkill. All those are over on my LinkedIn. You can click my articles over there. For today and the entire lecture series, it is about this one thing. How are you going to become this self-recruiter, this person that looks after one great candidate, which is you, but you also have to be that one great recruiter. You also need to be the strategist, the cheerleader, everything else in between, because it needs to be you yourself doing everything. That means, yes, we're going to read and think about how we approach our industry, how we approach networking, maybe in a very, very different way using LinkedIn, exponentially changing the results. Also means we need to keep one eye on that toughest competitor imaginable. You know, those 4, 5, or 6 people that if you saw them, oh, they're going for the job. Oh, forget it. That person. We can beat those people very, very easily. If you don't plan, if you don't have a strategy, oh my gosh, they will beat you every time because they're sparkly, shiny, and all those other things. You're going to have to think about. It's not as simple as really just going after the job and I'll get the interview and they'll just hire me. If it was really only that simple, if it was only that easy. Everyone else is sitting and doing the same thing you're doing. They're sitting at home hitting that darn button. Almost never does it really say apply. It's always submit, all capital letters, until we're so submissive. It's like a Friday night, waiting for that phone to ring. Oh, it's going to ring. It's going to ring. Oh, you know who it's going to be when it rings? Telemarketer. So that tends to leave us in some pretty unhappy places. Now, when we fail to prepare properly for an interview, which is a selling opportunity, not simply, oh, I have to trot out there and let them evaluate me. Oh, yes, that's part of it. It's an opportunity to sell yourself, to convince, to persuade, not waiting to be selected. That leaves you in these places you see up on screen here. That's part of the human condition, by the way. I want you to think in terms of the unusual, the unconventional, the unexpected. What else could I do? I can't do that. Maybe I can. Maybe if you need John's permission, I'll give you to change some of those rules, which changes the equation, produces different results for you. Now, here's most of your competitors. This should give you a little bit of a lift. Most of your competitors are mediocre, of only moderate quality, not very good, ordinary, average, middling, middle of the road, uninspired, undistinguished, indifferent, unexceptional, on and on and on. So, plain vanilla, not up to much, no great shakes. Bush League. Well, I want you to think about this mediocrity, and that's a terrible thing for our country and economy, everything else. But if this is the bulk of the workforce, what do you need to be? Little tiny bit better than mediocre, to be ahead of most people. And all you have to do is put a little bit of heart and soul into whatever it is that you do to be the top 1, 2, 3%. It's really that simple. So understand who your competitor is, understand who your best competitors are, and don't forget that you're this product, whether we like it or not, that has to be positioned and sold and packaged, and we have to go get shelf space so they see it. We have to make sure it's lit properly. All that requires us to have a story. Now, story sometimes gets a bad rap because story, something that's not true. Nonsense. Every single thing that you say needs to be letter true, but not confessional. You know, I grew up Catholic. I know all about confession. This is not a confessional situation. There's no sin of omission. There's only sin of commission. So anything I say has to be letter true, but I can leave out anything I'd like to leave out, as long as everything I say is letter true. So what is your story? You've probably told your story in the same way for so long, you cannot even see it another way. You can't see how it can be transformed into something a little bit more shiny, maybe even a little bit more spectacular to elevate your brand. As you prepare, you're going to have to think about different scenarios. Now, not too many that we're going to be in person these days, but a little bit here and there on occasion. Telephone, probably quite a lot. Zoom, Meet, video of some sort, most definitely. Since we're working largely remotely in this economy, not everything, but a lot of positions, we have to get comfortable in this type of environment. If you're not comfortable in this type of environment, go watch my presentation guru lecture. Post it right over on my YouTube channel. It will help you understand how you up your game completely. Then you have to overlay the idea of, I have to interview, which is not about going in and being questioned. Oh, that's part of it. They're going to question you, of course. But I'm not there to be questioned. I am there to use the device of their questions to position and sell myself. Each one is a launching pad for me to tell a story. So I'm going to have to know, why am I more valuable than these 5 or 6 people that want this job desperately? I have to outshine them in some way. I'm not there to answer the question. So really, I'll only answer a question I intend to answer. Every other one that I answer, I'm going to answer like a politician. Now, politics, there's a lot going on in the last year. Just think of any politician that's good at politics. Doesn't mean they're good to be elected or for whatever their purpose is, but they're good at the circle of politics. That person rarely answers a direct question. They're asked this question and they give this answer. They ask that question, they give this answer. Really what they do is they answer the question they wish they were asked. Oftentimes they might even rephrase it. Gosh, what I think you're asking me is this, and then they answer it. So really the Q&A is about positioning yourself. How do I sell myself? How do I use this time to talk to illustrate why I'm absolutely irresistible for the team or whatever the challenge may be? Now, the secret you may not like, the reason you're going to be hired is not because you're capable and not because you're qualified. Don't mishear that. I would not consider hiring anybody for the role that I'm after unless they were capable and qualified. That's not the determining factor. Every person I consider should be capable and qualified. It's the chemistry. Chemistry, number one, above all other things, determines the hire, assuming you're capable and qualified, and confidence in you above all other things than chemistry. And that's before the credentialing. That's before the background. That's before everything you've ever done, assuming you're capable or qualified. So we have to put a lot of focus on this chemistry and confidence, or we're not going to win, because we have to create engagement. But it's really much closer to this type of engagement. Really, our interview process is like a dating process. It's about them. Even though it's about you, it's got to be about them. It's got to be about them. And then when it is about you, you've got to be ready with your story. Yes, be capable, qualified, all those things. But why are you interesting? What makes you tick? A lot of ways to answer that, by the way. I hope that you're using multiple platforms, digital platforms for your career. Certainly we need to be on LinkedIn. It is the de facto social networking website for our work life. Watch my LinkedIn lecture if you haven't seen that one. But then I likely need to be a few other places. At a minimum, if you'd like to be employed, I'm a big believer you also need to be on Twitter. Almost lost it again every time I mention that. I don't mean you have to live on Twitter. In fact, I'm on Twitter, but what do? I go on Twitter 5 or 6 times a year. The rest of what I do is everything that I decide is share worthy on LinkedIn, I then seamlessly let flow out to Twitter right from my LinkedIn account. Really doubles my advertising. If you think about it, everything you share is really advertising that draws people back to you if it's interesting. Doubles my advertising with half the effort. But still I have to answer not only those things that I share tend to be about being qualified, what I'm involved in, living, breathing, doing my profession. How are you interesting? What makes you tick even affects me as a career coach. People want to know, oh yeah, you seem very qualified, John, but what are you all about? What makes you tick? What drives you? I feel this is so important. I put it as one of the items that are our drop-down menu on my website, SelfRecruiter.com. Drop-down menu tends to indicate, oh, must be important. So it's my Instagram account is up on my drop-down menu. And if you happen to take a look at it, you will see absolutely nothing about what I do professionally. I hope you don't mind if I clear up a little bit of a fingerprint on these glasses. It'd be nicer if I could see everything just the way I'd like. So why is my Instagram there if there's nothing professional there? What you do see there is you see me hiking up the Hudson Valley. You see me climbing Half Dome out in Yosemite. You see me taking on challenge. Every September, 9/11 rolls around. And of course, I unfortunately lost one of my sisters on 9/11. And, easiest way to share with the family is over Instagram. You can imagine, really, if you step back and took an umbrella view of all that you see on my Instagram, every bit affects challenge, physical, emotional, whatever it be. And that, of course, ties back into what I do as a career coach. And yet it lets people see behind the scenes. Why are you interesting? What makes you tick? You're going to have to think about what tools you're going to use in the paradigm shift of storytelling that's going to happen. You're going to have to change your tactics. You have to outmaneuver your competitor, and that means you're going to have to use social media marketing as well, even though you're maybe preparing for an interview. I think I won. I'm in the interview process. Not if your competitors that are also interviewing outflank you, out-advertise themselves, make themselves more compelling. Really, what you need to do in the interview is answer one singular question. The singular question is, convince me why it's going to be the very best business decision I make today if I choose to hire you. Now, I don't think they're very likely to ask you this, but my gosh, you need to convey this in all of the things that you say about yourself. Convince them of this in their brain, and naturally they're going to choose you. So how do we distill down our story becomes part of it. And yet we have to keep the usual, unusual, customary, expected in there, changing everything, changing all that prior approach that we might have done in the past, these rules that we have to break. Well, I can't say the first thing in the interview. Why not? You know what it is? It's a conversation. You can't say, oh, so wonderful to meet you. Gosh, I was so excited. Yes, I could even start off the interview myself. I don't have to wait for question, answer. Now, this part about separating yourself out. Yes, you need to be interchangeable just like these other people, but you also have to be somehow exceptional or different. And accomplishing that is going to come out of your soft skills. The soft skills are your emotional intelligence quotient. All these things up on screen here, I don't really have to read them for you. But look at those last two on the list there. I'll let you look while I have a little sip here. Friendliness and optimism. The sun will come up tomorrow, even if it's a nuclear holocaust, which we really hope it isn't. But you know what? Your job is to be eternally optimistic, friendly. That's part of a charm and disarm strategy. Your job is not to go in there and be, you know what I'll do? I'll just go in there. I'll be pretty little flower. They'll just pick me. I'm sorry, they're not going to pick you. That is not the way it works. At some point in the very interesting, involved conversation, you have to stand up and give an opinion that recommends yourself. They're looking for you to have the confidence to say, I'm the one. And yet it has to be organic. It has to be real. And so I'm going to have to charm them so they drop their armaments, drop their barricades against me, open up to my story. And I have to use every other skill, every other avenue I have to communicate why I'm the one. That's how you're going to influence people. That's how you're going to achieve your success. By the way, your success is not guaranteed. Your success is determined by how much preparation you put into it. What do I recommend? Let's imagine right now, it's Thursday right now. Let's imagine you have interview next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Congratulations. Those things are great and very good to get. By the way, I hope you're getting about one per week. That is the real goal, from my opinion, is to generate one brand new interview per week. And that takes a lot of work. So please see my Supercharging Your Job Search lecture if you're not up to that speed yet. That level of interviewing is required for you to be able to potentially get multiple offers. That's the only way you actually have choice. So how are we going to use this same marketing campaign that I have in my mind as you prepare for the interview? So Tuesday, 10 a.m. coming up. It's Thursday right now. I have a few days and the weekend to prepare. So the first thing I'm going to do right now, they say, oh, John, come and see us Tuesday at 10 a.m. Great. Let me pause and ask you a question. Do you know everyone that you're going to meet with on Tuesday? Well, yeah. I mean, they sent me a couple names. They sent you a couple names. It doesn't sound like you know everyone. Email them back. No, I just emailed them. I don't care. Email them again. It'll be worth it. Dear Jack, dear Jim, dear Jill, so excited to meet with you on Tuesday at 10 a.m. In addition to yourself and Jim and Jason or whoever it may be, is there anyone else I am likely, there's an important word, to meet with so I can fully prepare for the meeting? Now, if you forget to include that word likely, they're going to probably go, oh, I don't really know. And you didn't get very far because you didn't think of how you'd be trapped. But if you include the word likely, they're probably, oh, I don't really know, but there might be a couple peers off the team, and maybe the senior manager so-and-so might sit in as well. There. You got a reference to two peers that weren't mentioned before. By the way, they didn't give me the names, but I could reverse search on LinkedIn the same way I teach in my LinkedIn lecture. I could look at this company. I could see who my peers are. Oh, there's 6 peers. I may meet with 2 of these people. Well, did you forget already the chemistry and confidence? I have to plan in advance how to build chemistry and instill confidence with my target audience, with those people I'm going to meet. I have to plan on how to win over all 6 people I may meet, even though I'm only going to meet 2 of them. Part of the whole process is I'm going to go into LinkedIn. I'm going to either see the job or imagine where the job is, reverse search the way I teach in the LinkedIn lecture, Pick 25 to 30 individuals. This is up the food chain from where I see myself, down the food chain, all the way down to admin level for very strategic reasoning, left and right into a surrounding department or two. I have a nice, healthy mix of 25 to 30 people, probably in a non-pandemic world. I bet you those are the people I might see on a daily basis. This is beginning to warm up your audience behind the firewall of the company before you've ever had your first interview. I open their profiles on LinkedIn, triggers a marketing event of 6 people have looked at you. Who's looked at me? Who's looked at me? I don't know if you've looked at that before. As soon as you look at it now, it's very difficult to stop looking at it in the future. So that tool that LinkedIn uses to try to drive subscriptions or the desire to have a subscription, you can use that same tool to look at people. Hi, here's my nice headline, why I'm so valuable to your company, behind the firewall of the company to warm the audience. So I ask 25 to 30 people to connect with me. Now, this is a simple message that says, you don't know me. I'm professionally appropriate. Gives them a little bit of a stroke to the ego. Sounds like I like to connect with other professionals in our niche or niche, depending how we like to say that. And of course, I'd love to add you to my professional network on LinkedIn. Says you don't know me, about to meet me maybe. Now, one exception, the 25 to 30, you're not going to meet all those folks. But once I've asked the 25 to 30 to connect, then I want to send a message to those people I'm actually going to meet with on Tuesday. And those folks, I'd like to send a message by real email, not through LinkedIn. I've already asked to connect. By the way, don't wait for the answer. The answer is irrelevant. It's a sales process. I simply ask to connect and move to the next step, which is to pick the 3, 4, 5 people or whoever I think I'm going to be meeting with. And now I put an individual email message out to them, not brain surgery to get any human being's email. That's 99% of the people's email I can get within 2 to 3 minutes. You know, there may be 1% you're never going to get. You need to learn how to conserve your time and move on to an easier target if you get the wrong target. 99% you can get. Go with those folks. Go with the statistical number. Now I reach out to each one of those people I'm going to meet with. I give them a gentle reminder. Looking forward to meeting with you next Tuesday. If I haven't connected, then I go, and I'd love to add you to my professional network on LinkedIn. Or I simply say, you know, for convenience, which is also a demonstration of your attention to detail and how you'll follow up and work together, I've attached my resume, and of course, my link to my LinkedIn profile is below. Looking forward to a great discussion. Best, John, send it. Did you notice also it does not require a response? That's a critical mistake people make in the messaging. Oh, I know that we'd like a response. I like one too. But you know what? If you put in some last little question or this or something that seems to indicate you need a response, that works against you. Leave the choice in their eyes. Again, I'm beginning to warm up the audience. I give them a gentle reminder. Oh, I'm seeing you on Tuesday. Now, what's your background? Click. That was my whole point. Get them to either open up the resume or get over to my LinkedIn profile to begin to sell to themselves as they read about me before I walk in the door on Tuesday. Now, hopefully they get over to my LinkedIn profile. It should be this real 3-dimensional sales brochure. If yours is not, you should work with a great coach to make a phenomenal presentation about yourself to elevate your brand, to understand which parts of your story help move the story forward and which parts dilute it and really need to fall by the wayside. Nudge, nudge, nudge. Small changes change perception. So let's think about what small changes you might implement that will up your persuasion, up your influence, and really up your brand level for yourself. Now, there's more than just the motivational piece. We have to have an actual plan. Let me get a little tissue. We have to actual plan here. So let's run down the basics of an actual plan, and then we're going to drill down in each one of these. So we're going to move pretty quickly. You're going to have to build an actual agenda. Yes, it's your sales meeting. Oh, I mean interview. Same thing. It's a sales meeting. It's an interview. You are there to sell. Therefore, would you go into a sales meeting where you need to sell to another company? Would you go into that meeting without an agenda? I don't think you would close very many sales if that was your approach. So you're doing the same thing here. You need to go into this meeting where your job is not to let them evaluate you. but to position and sell yourself and teach them how to select you. And that requires an agenda. You're going to have to do a needs analysis. I'll tell you about all of these things as we move forward. You have to select and customize your work life stories. If there is no buy sign, you know what that sounds like? Oh my gosh, John, this has been a wonderful discussion. You have an amazing background. Sounds pretty good so far. And then somehow they segue over to, you know what, we have a few more people to see and probably be 2 or 3 weeks, and we'll probably never call you again. I don't care how sweet it starts out. If it does not end in an indication to, I'd like to bring you back next week to meet so-and-so, or I'd like to get your references to move toward offer. If it doesn't end with one of those two things, you do not have a buy sign. You did not win. Doesn't mean you lost yet. Keep it in perspective. But you didn't win yet. As I would say in my live lectures, non-pandemic time, I'd say, well, why would you get up and leave the room? I don't mean to stay there so long till they're going, security. That's not going to help us either. But if you know you didn't win, why would you leave them with that feeling? This is your chance to overcome it. So if there's no buy sign, we're going to have to ask them what's missing. And then they're going to tell us what's wrong with us, which is our chance to overcome the perception of what's wrong with us, overcome those objections, and to really close them. Another scary sales term, how to close them, to make sure they think of me as the best. And either get that job or get the next interview, whatever the next round is. So let's drill down here, building the agenda. Well, I'm not in charge. Yes, you are. And I don't mean like a steamroller. Oh my gosh, if I'm dealing with someone that's interviewing me and they would like to be in charge, poor little things, absolutely, I'm going to make them feel in charge, try to elevate them up onto a pedestal, even though I'm going to treat them as an exact equal. I will do everything also to try to elevate their feelings. But they're not in charge. I'm in charge. I'm in charge by how I decide to interact with them. So I need to decide up front, who am I meeting? If I have to win the chemistry vote, if I have to instill confidence, first off, I have to think about how I'm going to build chemistry with you and who are you? What are our similarities? But then I also have to think about what stories I tell and how I tell them to build up the belief of confidence in me. So yeah, I have to look at each one of you and I may have to come up with different strategies. How do I build the chemistry? What stories should I talk about that will be the right ones? Which ones might make them jump out of their chair? Which ones are just true? They're true, but it's dull credit I don't need. That's not the exciting part of the story. What else do they need to hear? That's all part of the agenda itself. Needs analysis. My gosh, that's a scary sales term. Needs analysis. What is that? What's that? Simply means, why don't you not answer questions before you reconfirm and ask them once again? Don't assume. What is it exactly that you need? Now, how does that work? I certainly don't want them to think that I did not prepare for the interview. So I have to handle that right up front. Maybe you aren't as fast as I'm projecting that you might be, and you walk into the interview, be it video or in person, video mostly these days, but you walk into the interview session and suddenly they go, John, tell me all about yourself. I'm like, oh, they got their question in before I could do the needs analysis. And I believe John said, don't answer questions until you do the needs analysis. So in this case, I'm going to agree to talk about it and then disagree by not talking about it and ask them a question first. So when they say, oh, John, tell me all about yourself. Oh, I'd love to. That's the agree but disagree. I agree now. Before I do, there's the disagree. You know, of course, I have done all my research. I've read the job posting, looked at your competitors and everything else, what's going on in the industry. Oh my gosh, I want credit for all of it. How are you going to get credit for it without saying it? But it has to be a toss away, like, of course. And then you shift to their emotion. But really, I'd like to hear from your perspective, your opinion, a few strokes to the ego in your language. As I step into this role, just project it myself mentally in their brain into the role. As I step into this role, now I can say possibly step into this role, confidence, chemistry and confidence. As I step into this role, Jack, Jim, or Joe, I'd love to hear from your perspective, your view. What are the 2 or 3 most critical items to get control of in, say, the first 30 to 60 days? Avoid 90 days. That triggers something very, very different in the brain. That does not help. Plus, it's too long of a time frame. What I'm after here is something I discovered as a recruiter. Those job postings, those job ads are a wild target on the side of a barn. And what it typically is not listed in those things is what has gone wrong. What are they trying to fix? What has just blown up or derailed? Because if I can solve those things, my gosh, I'll be hired tomorrow. So this is going to cause them to think about what's on fire, what's derailed, what's about to derail, and what do you have to get control of right away. And that level of detail is generally not in the job posting. Yet that's exactly what I need to sell to. If they don't tell me, or they're not able to tell me so clearly, I may have to extract it in conversation. Well, Jack, Jim, or Jill, tell me a little bit about what are your pain points? I know you're looking to hire this role, but what are some of the pain points? What would you like to change? What would you like to maybe solve, or what's being left undone? Maybe why is this job open? Oh, how could that benefit me? Well, there's only a few basic reasons jobs are open. They could be, well, maybe there's an expansion. We're growing so much. Got an expansion. It's a brand new role. That's a pretty good thing. Also means you better be ready, because they probably don't have the support system in place that you might be used to. And I hope that you take that into account as you go to interview. You have to demonstrate that you'll be able to put in the support structure for yourself, or handle it all yourself. Maybe the person got promoted. What do you, congratulations to them, by the way. If the person got promoted, what do you think the condition of their work that they left behind was? I'd imagine probably pretty decent condition. I also imagine, since they're still working there, they'd like their legacy and momentum to continue forward. So you need to understand what their biggest achievements have been in the role, and really how you continue that momentum and their legacy. The other reason jobs are open is people get kicked to the curb, in the nicest way to say it. So, gosh, if the person was terminated, a very less nice way to say it, there's a reason. Wouldn't you like to know exactly why? Which they're not going to tell you if you phrase it that way. Oh, I don't think it's appropriate we talk about that. As a recruiter, I used to ask that question all the time. Oh, the person got let go. Oh, why'd they get let go? And as a recruiter, I would not shy away from it, because I know that they'd push back and go, oh, I can't talk about that. And they go, oh, I don't think it'd be appropriate we talk about that. It's like, oh. And I go, oh, no, I totally understand. Let me ask you a different question. What are your pain points? What would you like to change? What would you like to solve? What do you wish were different? And then they'll tell me exactly why the person was just fired. And if I can solve those pain points, oh my gosh, don't you know, that's going to change everything. Last question here is, what have they not seen? That is a spectacular question. If you ask it the right way, and if they answer it clearly, they're going to tell you exactly why they've not hired. My gosh, I hope if I can meet those things, those items, whatever it might be, I'm going to convey that, and they're going to hire me probably within moments if this need is really real, if I build the right chemistry, if I don't alienate people in the process, if I make my brand so desirable to the team that they imagine that their life gets easier if they hire this person. Next part of creating an interview plan is to really select and customize those work-life stories. After a career that of some length, we have a lot of different potential stories to talk about. And yet we fall in the trap of telling the same stories we enjoy telling all the time. Oh, I love to tell this story. I get it. I love to tell some of the similar stories as well, because they're effective. And yet you have to make sure it's the right story for the right audience. So which stories might illustrate a certain skill set that I'm after, or which stories might showcase my value best, or elevate my brand, or somehow create interest maybe in them, in how I maybe handle something. And then I have to have all those stories back here, like in a bag of tricks, ready to go. And yet I only pull out just the right story for whoever I'm speaking to. Just the one that I go, I think they're going to love to hear about this. Next up on your plan is overcoming objections. I would hope that you have this reaction when they go, well, John, you've never worked in this field. Why am I so happy? Did you hear the question? Did you fail to understand that they would not waste oxygen on you if they didn't think, oh, maybe I'm going to have to ask you this, to see what your response is, to gauge your confidence. So whatever they object about you, I think you could probably make a laundry list of objections right now. I think you really know what they're going to object about you right now. You're just afraid to say it. I can't be afraid of objections. I have to imagine they're going to say those things to me. And when they object, I'm going to use the agree but disagree technique again. Well, John, you've never worked in this field. You know, I haven't. Just like it's a gift from up above. And then I disagree that that's important with what I say next. You know, but Jack, Jim, or Jill, I'm sure you're going to meet a lot of those individuals in the other candidates that you speak to. Other people are always candidates with a little bit of candidates. Those are the interchangeable candidates. Don't get one of those things. And yet, what I bring to the table as an individual, is very different. And then you have to make the case as to why you are the right one, even though you may not have worked in the field, and why you have a passion that others won't bring to the table. And right back to them like a date. And that's why, Jack, Jim, or Jill, I'm so excited for today's discussion. And then try not to blink, try to look at them. By the way, remember, your job is, as often as possible, not to look at the screen, not to look down at your notes, not to look at the camera, look at the little camera hole. That's your job. Fall in love with that. Haven't worked since last year? You know, I haven't. But, you know, I have to say, I hadn't had a career break in so long, Jill, that, you know, it was a wonderful opportunity to work on all those projects that build up at home that, you know, we never get to work on and clear all those out. So actually, it turned into a little bit of a sabbatical, which I needed given what everything was going on. But I tell you, I got all my projects done. I'm excited and ready to get back to work. And I'm so drawn to this role, right back to them like a date. Or you haven't worked in this industry, or you haven't worked in this field. You know all the reasons they're going to object to you. Construct how you're going to overcome these things. You haven't worked nonprofit. You haven't worked commercial. You know, I haven't. But I'm sure you're going to meet a lot of those folks in the other candidates that you see. You know, what I bring to the table is very different. Yes, you have to position and sell yourself as something different, something elevated. Don't overpromise. But if you are the type of person that, you know what, if I get this shot, everybody gets a shot at some point. Now, here's your chance. Are you the type of person that just, I'm going to sit in this nice comfy chair and take up my space? This is my shot. Or are you the type of person that doubles down, and if there's some missing piece, I'm going to double or triple my efforts. I am knocking it out of the ballpark. If you're that person, then you need to push. You need to make sure they see you as the right person, overcome those objections. They would not even object to you or even be speaking with you if they didn't think, maybe, convince me that's what they really mean. Closing. Let's talk about this scary sales term. People really misunderstand it. They think it's asking for what you'd like. Specifically, that is not closing. That is not closing. That is someone that doesn't understand. Closing is so scary because it requires asking for something that you'd like and then asking for agreement to it, which is where they say no. And we're so afraid of the no, we just forget to ask them to agree to it. And that's not closing. So if there's no buy sign, if they give me that nice song and dance, nice background, I've loved our conversation, I can't believe where the time went, and then suddenly they segue over to, we'll get back to you someday, you're going to have to interrupt them, in my view. I can't get off this call if it's a voicemail or video conference, whatever it may be. If I'm lucky enough to be in person, whatever it might be, a few months from now. You know, Jack, let me ask you this. That's just a verbal device, by the way. That's very similar to going, let me shake you by the shoulders to make sure you're paying attention. I can't ask you something new, something that hopefully changes your valuation of me without catching your attention. Jack, let me ask you. Long, pregnant pause. What have you not seen? Or what have we not discussed that would help you in your decision process for this role? That's your job, is to figure out how to use these closing questions to get them to see you as the right one. So if there's no buy sign, I have to get them to imagine the entire race as a two-dimensional timeline, a race toward the finish line of hiring this person. If I get them to imagine that two-dimensional timeline and everything involved, and then get them to somehow imagine where they see me on the timeline, it's very scary because they're going to tell me things that they don't like about me. But Once they have that relationship and once they have that visual, then we can make progress. We can get somewhere. So what have you not heard, or what have you not seen, or what should we discuss? Here's some actual language for you. It'll help you. I do like the positive negative. You never quite know how someone is wired in the brain. So one part I punch a little bit, the other part's a little soft. Well, Jack, what have you not heard? That's the more confrontational. Or what have we not discussed? And then it goes bright, optimistic. And then I state the benefit. That will help you in your decision process for this role. Now, if you've seen me before, you know that's pretty good, but that's not quite enough for John. John likes it even a little bit more. So, you know, what I would be saying is something like, well, Jack, let me ask you, what have you not heard or what have we not discussed that would help you in your selection of me as the very best individual for this role? And then you try to hold, you try to look, you try not to blink. It's not that hard for a little bit, and then blink when you need to. Oh, I've had clients that I coach and they say, oh, I don't think I could say that. I'm like, well, then you're not going to get hired. By the way, I am shy and introverted, no matter what you see here. Yeah, you have to think about the space. You have to think about what your job is. Your job is not to be the pretty little wallflower. Your job is to position and sell yourself. Your job is to get them to think of you as the very best individual. Can you imagine a better way to get them to think it than to plant it directly in their head? And they'll tell you why you are or are not that thing. And when they tell you why you are not that thing, you have to overcome those agenda items. So here's a quick view again of the whole interview plan itself. I build the agenda. I do a needs analysis right up front. I sidestep if they squeeze in the first question. Oh, great question. I can't wait to answer it and do the needs analysis. I select and customize those work-life stories. I make sure to ask them what's missing if there's no buy sign. I have to overcome the objections. That's the only way you're going to be seen as the very, very best and get that job. But today we're in a video interviewing world. Now, I used to have a lot of questions. People would come up and go, oh, how about video interviewing? I'm like, no, not if you'd like to be hired. Because prior to pandemic, there was not a lot of video interviewing. And when someone would video interview, most times they would be terrible, terrible. We didn't have that skill set. And I can tell you, looking over my other half's Zoom shoulder on occasion, a lot of us still don't have that skill set a year into it. You have to control what you present on video. That is your brand. By the way, I'm standing in a 1 foot square space. There's a wall right here with the green screen. I've got lights all around me. I'm speaking to my ironing board, which is in my bedroom, stacked up with boxes to elevate the computer up to the right level, which has a separate attached camera for a much better visual, separate attached microphone for a much better audio, lighting all around, a swapped out background to create effect. Yeah, what are you going to do? Or are you just going to do a cold, ready, dark room? I'm ready. And then we keep looking at the screen, never looking at them in the camera. So what are you going to do? How are you going to be at the top of your game on a video interview that is so uncomfortable in this modern world, this COVID era of interviewing? Well, first off, remember it's chemistry and confidence. I don't know how long we'll go today. We're about 45 minutes in. Typically, this one goes about an hour and 15 minutes, maybe a little bit longer when it's in person because people interject live questions. But I hope you didn't lose sight of the fact that I'm standing in a 1 foot square space in the confines that you'll see shortly. I'm going to show you all the setup. And essentially, this is just a monologue. This is a nonstop monologue with visual support. And yet I have to create the environment where it's interesting. And it's really a conversation with the pauses and everything else. But, you know, it's simply a monologue. Practice, practice, practice. So I can't forget that your job is still to build chemistry and confidence in this kind of thing. Of course, on video interviewing, I know you're going to be able to see them on the other end. But again, that doesn't really build chemistry with you. You have to use these type of techniques you see in this presentation. Forget about looking at their visual. Just keep looking at the camera so you're looking at them in the eyes. Let's take a look at some screenshots. And I grabbed these screenshots of some various Zoom meetings right off the internet. So careful where we post those things. But I wanted to go through a series of them and give some commentary so you'll understand about how to construct your video. So remember, it's chemistry and confidence win the day. Do we see it here? Do we see it? Do we see it? I'm not really sure what we're looking at here. I'm not sure if I see it here. I don't even know if this person knows they're on a job interview. They seem distracted unless they're working for one of the baseball leagues or something like that. I don't think we're in the right place. Chemistry and confidence win the day. Do we see it here? I'm not sure we see much of anything here. I really need to see you. This person is hiding behind a very bad setup because they don't have confidence themselves. Think about your setup and think about what it does to either lessen or elevate your brand. Chemistry and confidence win the day. Do we see it here? Do we see it here? Well, we see a lot of things here. I'm not quite sure I really need to see up your nose. That's never something I'm excited about. Also, don't really need to see your ceiling. Well, it may tell me a little bit more about the building you're living in. So again, not successful. We didn't think about it. We didn't think about the fact that we had to elevate the computer so that we can look at the camera as if we're in a television studio, even if you're doing this for an interview. The point is to present yourself on a very extraordinary professional level. Chemistry and confidence win the day. Do we see it here? Well, chemistry, not really, but I'll give them the confidence vote. I'll give them the confidence vote. A little harsh, but I'll give them it. Lighting's a little harsh too. You know, that doesn't really help us. Again, I'm not really interested in looking at your ceiling, and I'm really not interested in the attitude that I detect, which does give me the confidence, but I'm really not interested in it. Chemistry and confidence win the day. Do we see it here? Chemistry, I don't really feel the chemistry here. I see she's happy. I don't really feel the chemistry. Confidence, okay. I'll give her the chemistry vote for the moment until I take it away. Because I suspect this person doesn't have confidence. And the reason I suspect they don't have confidence is a combination of things. First off, they've selected this background, which is more distracting. My eye keeps going to look at their background rather than the background adding focus to them. You are the product. You're not a bystander. Second thing is, you know what? We're not here for gaming. We're not here for gaming. We don't need to see a big boom mic. Hiding behind the big boom mic and a distracting background to me says no matter how you're carrying yourself, I bet you actually don't have confidence. And chemistry and confidence are why you're going to be hired, assuming you're capable and qualified. Chemistry and confidence win the race. Do we see it here? You know what? I feel some chemistry. I feel the confidence for sure. Let's talk about what's not right. Let's not put in all this work and then upstage ourselves. We have this gigantic photo or painting or whatever it might be behind this person's head that keeps drawing my eye. I keep trying to figure out what that is. This person has upstaged themselves. That's not a good look. Chemistry and confidence win the race. Do we see it here? Do we see it? No, I feel the chemistry. I'll feel the confidence as well. But it suffers from the same problem. It suffers from the same lack of attention to detail, getting upstaged by these pictures on the wall because of two things. First off, because there's pictures on the wall that have glass that are producing reflection, keeps pulling the eye away. Secondly, my brain is going to keep pulling my eye away because I'm trying to look very closely with my eyeballs at these pictures to figure out what they are. Again, I'm not looking at you, which is the product. Chemistry and confidence win the race. Do we see it here? You know what? I feel the chemistry. I feel the confidence as well. So what's wrong with this one? Really, don't wear gigantic headphones. That is not a good look. Also undermines everything that's positive about this image because I'm really only thinking about these gigantic Princess Leia earphones on. Not a good look. Chemistry and confidence win the race. Do we see it here? Let's talk about this one. I'll give them the chemistry. I'll give them the confidence vote. That part, win-win. I like it. Background. Obviously, this is just a stock photo background. I get that. But look at how they selected it. It is a background that adds focus to them without being distracting, adds something interesting to the framing. But again, what's wrong with this picture? Don't wear medium headphones either, even if they're not the giant Princess Leia. Medium head, we don't really like seeing that stuff, and boy, is it unnecessary. Oh, I get you might like to listen with the headphones. I get it. But that's not a good look. So we have to think about that. Chemistry and confidence win the race. Do we see it here? You know what? I'll give them the chemistry, and I'll give them the confidence vote as well. Look at the framing on this one. This one is very artfully put together. Just enough interesting element on the left, just enough interesting element on the right with the partial picture. Yes, I do wish they were lit just a little bit better on the one side of their face, but you know what? And I wish it weren't slightly downward angled. But you know what? Compared to the other ones that we've seen, this one's going to win the race if all things are equal. By the way, all things are never equal. So what you're trying to do here is align as many dominoes as possible from your technique, from your setup, from your preparation to make sure they potentially fall your direction. And we're going to go through our SelfRecruiter interview checklist. This is really much of the same discussion we've already had, but we think about it in a slightly different way from a checklist standpoint. Before I walk in on Tuesday, I have to do my full research on the job, the company culture, job itself. You know what? I bet you, if you just put that job posting aside, if you think you're qualified for this role, why don't you just write the job posting right now? Why don't you write the requirements right now? Because I bet you'll write a better job posting than you just looked at. Then I maybe extract or take a few things that are in the job posting and maybe I add that to mine. Maybe what I would really do is if your LinkedIn lecture is large enough, mine is very large. I have over 11,000 connections. I have 3 levels out. That is over 21 million people. If I'm going after any job, I can see anybody that has ever held that job before. How would that change your preparation? Well, how did they talk about the job? You know, if I was really thinking like a detective, a little bit of a Sherlock Holmes, I could go into any of the competitor companies anywhere in the country. It's for preparation and pull the people doing the same job at the competitors. How do they talk about that job? I don't care if they do the job differently at the competitor. It's the same job. Combine all those things together with the fact that you believe you're the right one. That would dramatically change just your ability to hold the conversation together. Of course, we have to do our company research, read every word of the website. Well, every word of the website. You want this job? Read every word of the website. And I hope you learn to copy and paste into a text document some of their phrasing and language so that you understand how they speak about themselves and you naturally begin to absorb that before Tuesday. So when I show up to talk with them, they begin to hear their own employee. I'm like, you just fit in right well. I don't quite get it. I'm like, yes, I know. Company culture, much harder to figure out. May not even figure it out until you actually work there. Do that needs analysis very early in the meeting. We talked all about that. Watch your body language. Oh, behave. My gosh, if we're doing it on video, I strongly recommend you are standing. Guess what? I am standing today. I'm standing every day. Back when I was a recruiter, 7-8 years in outside recruitment, 3 different disciplines on a desk as a traditional headhunter, but 3.5 years that entire time, I was also the national trainer. So 100 office recruiting system, every single person that would come in to be a recruiter, they come into my 90-day program to teach them how hiring really works. And while I'm doing audio conference calls all day long, training these people, you better believe every one of them is I'm standing up. My bosses used to get a kick out of it because they'd see me in the little room with the glass and I'm in there like this and no one can see me because I got a headset and it's an audio conference. They're like, wow, John's passionate. Yes, we must watch our body language. We must free our diaphragm, big muscle in the middle of our body, so we can drop our vocal register, have more chemistry organically. I know you want this job. The other body language thing to think about, not in person, is don't eyeball people. Yes, I have to look at people, but I occasionally can look away for a thought before I look back to them, and I can look away for a second. I can look back at them. It can't be like I'm one of those little statues. Wherever I go, the eyes just follow. Creepy, creepy, creepy. Let's watch for that stuff. I know we want it, but we have to find balance. Dress like you're a success. You know, if I came into these lectures the way I normally look, which is maybe some athletic clothes, tights, 5-finger shoes, and whatever it might be, you know, I'm out there on the sidewalks, really even in non-pandemic years without the mask, and clients will literally walk right by me. I'm like, that's my client. Can't even see me because I'm not in the suit. Don't expect me to look like this. Not in the suit. You have to look like $1 million. You have to look like the product. I don't care what you actually are going to wear to your work life. Oh, I don't have to wear dress clothes when I go to work. Great. But for the interview, you certainly do. You have to look like $1 million. You have to outmaneuver every single competitor. They have to imagine that one time per year they have the board of directors or some important visitor. Or, oh, you're going to look great. You'll fit right in. You know just what to do. Also conveys I'm on the top of my game. Are you listening? I'm going to give you so much to think about. You're going to forget to listen. Your job is also to listen like an elephant with gigantic ears and absorb things that you can react to, absorb things that will help you. And never forget, you're there to sell yourself. You're not there to be picked like a little flower. You're there to give opinion, persuade, teach them how to select you. Now, everybody's interested in this. Would you like more money? I'll tell you what, John Crant would like more money. You know, there's nothing wrong with liking more money. But here's the thing. As an employer trying to hire you, if I think you want more money, I don't want to give it to you. If I think you need more money, I'm much more likely to give it to you. So here is where we have to understand that dynamic. To get more money, the very best advice is this: don't talk about money. And then my clients will go, but when do I, don't talk about money. But when do I, is there something unclear here? Don't talk about money. Your job is to avoid the money discussion like the plague or like COVID these days. You even get a sense that it is out there. My gosh, you're about to ask me about money next. I'm going to have to interject with an amazing question that hijacks your brain, turns the corner as distraction techniques. You maybe never come back to ask me about money. That's when you're very, very good at what you do. By the way, one of my clients is English as a second language. They're getting hired. They got hired a few years back by a very big institution in town. And, you know, they're very bureaucratic, many layers. And they went through 3 or 4 face-to-face interviews, a 6-panel interview. Then they're like, oh, come on up and have an offsite coffee. You know what that is? That's another interview. Then we think we're getting the call for the offer. And they're, we're having an open house on Saturday. Why don't you come work the open house? Yeah, I'd love to. Well, you're not going to get hired. So we went and did that. And then we finally got the call for the offer. And they're like, you're not in the system. Magical. Big bureaucratic institution in town. Absolutely, my client did not apply online. You know, for the most part, that goes to the wrong person, in my view. Now, if you'd like to work for HR, that's typically who that's going to. HR's mission in life is to rule you out. That's not because they're bad people, by the way. That is the only way you ever get to the right person. Why is this one not right? Why just, oh no, that one looks pretty good. That's in a good pile. Now, why is this one not right? Why is this one not right? Only way you ever get to the good one. So really, your job is to not talk about money, to get to the decision maker, bend their ear. But sometimes we'll fail and they'll go, oh, John, what do you need from a compensation standpoint? Oh, I didn't see it coming and you asked me. Now I'm cornered. Let's be clear. I will never answer that question. Never. I will walk out the door right now, lose this opportunity before I will ever tell you how little to pay me. Yes, that was the question. I don't care how they phrased it. The question was, how little can I pay you? I'm sorry, I don't answer those questions. That is not a good question. By the way, that's also not how I would respond. How would I respond when they cornered me? Oh, John, what do you need financially? Or what are your compensation needs? Or what are your salary requirements? I don't care how they say it. It's all the same question. How little can I pay you? To which I'm going to say, oh gosh, I don't know. Surprise. I'm very open. There's no time I will ever give them a number. There's also no time I will react to a number, which is the same thing as giving them a number. So I'm first going to go, oh gosh, I really don't know. I'm very open. And then I'm going to segue away from that. You know what today is about for me is really about finding that right home for my career, then right back to them like a date, which is why I'm so exciting, Janet, about our call and this particular role today. Pause. Now, that simple deflection, a third of the people will not have courage enough to ask you again, which is shocking to me. I'm like, really? That little tiny, like little horse flipping its tail to get rid of the fly, that little deflection got rid of a third of the people. But 2/3 are coming right back at you. 2/3, once they get started, are coming back at you. Now they tend to go for the more helpful approach, almost like they're like rolling up their sleeves. Maybe helping you with the pencil. They realize you have a problem with figures. It's like they're coming around your side of the desk figuratively with the pencil. Let me sharpen. Let me help you with that pencil. I just need an idea. Just need a ballpark. I just need to know we're headed in the right direction. Liar, liar, pants on fire. They're trying to get you to disclose how little to pay you. I will never tell them that part. So when they get helpful, I then shift to giving a recommendation without a number. And I go, oh gosh, as I said, Jack, Jim, or Jill, I'm really not sure what to tell you there. It really is about finding the right home for my career. What I would say is, here's a suggestion. What I would say is, make me the best offer that you can. I'm sure it'll be fine. By the way, if they make you the best offer that they can, I am sure it'll be fine. I'm also very, very sure that in almost every case, they will never make you the best offer that they can. They almost always tend to lowball. It's just the way it works. So I've already stated if they make the best offer, it'll be fine. And maybe they'll just accept that. Or maybe they'll push back. Maybe that cuts off another third or about half the people left. And one final third are coming right back for the jugular. They're going to be very firm. I can't move you forward. I have to have some number. I have to fill in this box. Well, you know, I personally won't tell them any number. So again, it's like, well, Jack, Jim, or Jill, I'm not sure what to say. You certainly know what these roles go for. I would look for something that, something that's a fair offer. Pause, because that's troublesome. You know, what's fair to you, you think fair offer is 80. I think fair offer is 60, whether that's dollars, thousands, whatever, doesn't matter. We have a big discrepancy of what's fair. So when I shift to saying, oh, I know what it is, make me a fair offer, and I let that resonate for a pregnant second, then I have to define it based, of course, even if I have to verbally step on them, based, of course, on the responsibilities for that role. By the way, that's just the minimum. So that's the foundational starting point. That's not what I'm going after, based, of course, on the responsibilities for that role and those unique things that I bring to the table. I'm the cherry on top of the dessert, essentially. You have to position in their mind, not acceptable just based on the responsibilities, based on the responsibilities plus those unique things that I bring to the table. That's how we get the very, very best offer. Think about it. Very, very tricky stuff there. Now, time to get it right. Well, timing issues. If it's a non-pandemic world and we're seeing people in person, you've got to get yourself into the area of the interview 30 minutes in advance, not into their lobby, not into their waiting room, but into the area. Go to a coffee shop, go to the park bench, whatever it might be. Collect your thoughts, go over your notes in the last 10 minutes or whatever it might be. You know, close your book. Trust that all the preparation homework, essentially, to get yourself ready will be available to you. Keep yourself centered and time it so you can get through building security, get through lobby security, and show up in their office lobby, upstairs, wherever that is, 5 to 15 minutes before the scheduled time. You know, if you have an 11 o'clock appointment with me and you show up at 10:35, that is not okay. In fact, you may think that's showing fantastic stuff. And your 11 o'clock is here. Oh, my day is already out of control. I can't leave you out there 25 minutes. Now I'm going to have to put on a happy face. I'm going to have to come out and go, oh, so nice to meet you. You know what? I'll see you probably about 25 minutes, and I can't wait for a discussion. And as I walk away, I'm cursing and going, oh, you messed up my day already because you were thoughtless. You didn't really think about how to remove the burden for the person that has to make the decision. The other time to get it right is offer stage. You know what? There's no waiting overnight. There's no waiting over the weekend if you're just going to accept the darn offer. Give them a win. Let the crescendo be clapped. Orchestra is building up to the crescendo. At the last moment, you go, can I think about that overnight? Well, of course you can. If there's some purpose, if you're going to negotiate. But if you're not going to negotiate, you need to give them the win now. By the way, you might go, that's a lot of pressure to decide in the moment. Why would you wait to the moment to decide? You're pretty smart. I bet you could name right now what's the worst, stinkiest, nasty offer I might get, no matter how stinky, low, nasty, and what's my reaction to that? What's the most likely offer I might get, and what's my reaction to that? Do I want to risk, because there's risk every single time you negotiate, do I want to risk losing this offer to try to get more, or do I just want to take it? Just want to take it. Or maybe what's the pie in the sky number that you're dreaming about? You can react to all those numbers now, know what you'd like to do in the moment, and then do it when the time is right. Very, very important. Next step, opportunity. Your whole thing has to be about them and the opportunity. And of course, at the end, you have to ask for the job, which is as simple as, I'm excited by what we've discussed. What's our next step? Even if you know what the next step is, you got to ask for it so they have in their brain, ooh, me. Ask for that job. That's going to help you. Don't lose sight of the fact that it can be unscheduled, scheduled, in person, can be random. You know what? If I have one of these things, which I don't have in front of me, my phone, if I have a phone, when it vibrates, buzzes, whatever, I look at it, I go, oh, if I wasn't expecting the call, I put the phone down. I let it go to voicemail. It's a sales meeting that I'm about to set up. I have to take back control. I have to understand what they're about to say to me. I also have to understand that when we do end up in discussion, whether it's right now on a pre-screening call or whether it's when I walk into a video conference or walk into a physical location, I can't allow this to be an interrogation. I have to allow myself to understand that it's my job to win them in conversation so they feel the chemistry and they want to hire me. So best ways to build chemistry, get them to talk about their favorite subject. That's themselves, by the way. Jack or Jim, I have to say, in preparing for the meeting, I looked at your background. I noticed you were over at ABC Company. So excited. What was it like over there? How did you make your choice to come join XYZ? Well, sure. A couple small innocuous questions about them. I'll lure them right up under their own soapbox, and then maybe some sounds, but not another word comes out until they run out of oxygen. This is how to get them to fall in love with you, by making it about them, getting them to talk about themselves. They go, I feel good for some reason. I know why you feel good. I let you talk all about yourself, and I collected information that I can then use in my interview discussion, which is happening right this moment. I still have to be real and genuine. I have to be myself. Now, I told you I'm shy and introverted. Am I not being myself because you see what's here today? This is another aspect of who I am. Doesn't change the shy and introversion piece. This is genuine too. The other part's genuine too. So a couple extra slides here that we don't really have to have. We're going to skip by those. Marketing materials, got to have everything ready. That means it's part of your personal branding. I have to think all about my product and how that product story is going to be supported by what I do about my brand, all the different aspects that can separate me out from others. And then I have to really be ready to carry that across every piece of material. My resume has to work with my LinkedIn, even though they have to be, in my view, dramatically different from one another in storytelling. They all have to work synergistically with my cover letter, which has a much tougher challenge. Then what do I put in the darn email? All sorts of things that support your branding. Biggest other preparation piece for your interview is to actually prepare the answers to the questions. Well, how do I know what they're going to ask me? What if you were the boss? What would you ask to hire this person? You're the expert in your field. I'm not the expert in your field. So make a list. What questions would you ask to find who really knows what they're talking about and who really doesn't? Just as if I were the hiring person, I had to find the right person. Then you simply add 3 SelfRecruiter questions to your question list, and you're going to have to write out all these answers. First one is, tell me why my life. Well, I guess that's the second one. Tell me why I should hire you over all others that I see. That's a throwing down the gauntlet. Not likely to actually ask you this way, but if they do, what will your answer be? And elements of what your answer would be have to be filtered into all the other conversation pieces, even if they don't answer it, because you have to answer it in their brain. Tell me why my work life gets easier or better if I hire you. Because I am hiring you today. If my life gets easier or better, it's about them. It's a date. And of course, the last one you already know. Why is it going to be the very best business decision they make today if they choose to hire you? And practice makes perfect. Role play this with a friend or a coach. I know a pretty good coach if you need to do some role playing. Don't be afraid of potentially even sowing some seeds of doubt about your competitors. Now, this isn't really right for everyone. You have to take this one very, very carefully. You have to see whether it's right for you. But, your interviews are the sales process. They're really a sales meeting. Think about if you were in a company representing some product or service, you had to go sell to another company. Would you hesitate to walk in the room and throw your competitor under the bus? You could buy from XYZ, but here's why you should buy from ABC. You probably wouldn't even hesitate to throw them right under the bus. But if you did that during your interview, they go, oh, Barracuda, shark, oh my gosh, don't let them in the room. They're going to get me next. Well, we can do the same thing. First off, by making sure our answers are always hitting the best business decision reason. And then somewhere we refer to something that's very, very unique in our background, something maybe the others don't have, even though the others have what seems to be desired. I have something different, special that somehow is going to be key to success. This is where you're giving an opinion, which can only be given, say, about 2/3, 3/4 of the way through your discussion. By that time, hopefully you've built rapport and a little chemistry and instill a little confidence. Then I can give an opinion. Otherwise, if you give an opinion too early, they're going to in their brain, they go, I'm sorry, who are you to give an opinion? But once I built the trust and rapport and discussion, I could go, Jack, Jim, or Jill, I think it would be incredibly important to look at experience with something unique to me that maybe the others don't have. It's something that I would certainly look at if I had to find the person that would be most successful in this role. You know what that is? That's like delivering a vaccine where we don't expect immediate protection, but over time it grows toward the reason why they don't hire the competitor. They might hire us instead. But it really could be anything from your background, could be educational, anything that's unique to you could be the reason. On interviews, your follow-up really makes the difference. Following up is not, hi, how'd it go? What's the next step? You have to diagnose yourself. This is like being your own little doctor. You walk out of the interview. I sit down on the park bench or go to the coffee shop, whatever it is. I pour out onto the paper every tangential thought I'm having. There's a reason you're having those tangential thoughts. Capture them, no matter how silly they seem, before they're gone. So yeah, I'm going to debrief myself afterward. Debriefing is very, very similar to what you feel like is happening in your interviews. You cross-examine yourself, you interrogate yourself, you grill yourself in this case. What went well? What didn't go so well? What do I wish were different? Where did I stick my foot in my mouth? Oh, what did I leave out? What did I fail to do? Good, bad, ugly, all. You have to capture it all so you know what to repeat next time, what to change for next time. And it's wonderful, wonderful training. Most important question is the one you asked last. It's a little demoralizing, and it's really as simple as this. If they don't move forward with me or they don't move toward an offer, what's the reason going to be? No thought process. This is like hitting that funny bone and you just have a little reaction to it. Your gut feeling will be right after the first few times, almost all of the time. Then whatever it is, maybe you go, oh, they're not going to hire me because I'm weak in area A. Okay, well, let's think about this for a moment. Is area A important? Yes. You didn't talk about area A? I was afraid. I was afraid. I've only worked on 2 projects, and I was afraid they'd realize I don't have enough experience. So you avoided talking about the most important area to get the job because you're afraid. Okay, we're going to have to overcome this. Do the normal thank you note. By the way, please do not thank anyone ever again for the rest of your life for their time. You need to be absolutely equal to everyone that you speak with. If you're thanking someone for their time, you've already positioned yourself as subservient. Your time is valuable as well. So thank them for something more meaningful. Thank you for your great insights. Thank you for the wonderful discussion, view behind the scenes, a peek toward, what you're looking to accomplish with the team. A lot of ways that I could say it. Then after that normal part of the thank you, I could start a new paragraph to tackle the issue I failed to tackle in the interview. We didn't have an opportunity to discuss area A, where I've worked on projects such as this or that. Notice I didn't say, where I've only worked on 2 projects. Oh, the inference is they're going to infer that I've certainly, this is representative. I never said this was representative. I'm very letter truthful. If you'd like to discuss that, don't hesitate to reach out at any time. Here's my phone number. This technique, by the way, saved my bacon. Before I was ever a recruiter, I was running a pre-press service bureau out of 121 locations in the country. My department had the #1 department in the entire country. And so our particular retail location, which was #4 in the entire country out of 121, my general manager went up to be country manager of Canada. And so John is going, well, I have the #1 department out of 121. I think I'm ready to ascend to the throne. Went in, did my interviews, and the danger in those days, that first off, it was before my time as a recruiter. So even though I had hired, I'd fired, I knew a lot. Like most managers, still didn't know what I was doing in the hiring and firing part. Maybe the firing part, not so much the hiring part. Have to fire the ones you hire by mistake, essentially. But really, I have to think about, well, I've got to change the equation here. I have to get them to see me as this one. So I have to know that I'm the one. Now, the good news is there were two deciders. My regional manager, who really liked me and really loved the P&L that I produced for my #1 department. Then there was that other regional manager that, you know, I'd worked in one of his stores like 4 years prior for like 2 months, and somehow it was like oil and water. It didn't quite get me. But that manager really wanted to have minions of his own that would follow him around and go out for drinks afterward. I'm like, you know, I'm a little older than the rest, and that's not why I'm here. And have you seen what I can do? And so there was a discussion. One wanted to hire me. The other one was like, but I didn't hear any vision for the store. After my interview, and I did a pretty good job, pretty good in conversation, I go back to my location. I call my spy in HQ. Good to have a spy in HQ. Oh, I thought it went well. No, it didn't. They're in there arguing about you right now, something about your vision for the store. I'm like, oh, how did I fail to communicate a vision for the store? And so I'm like, thank them for the great discussion, the insights, everything else. By the way, we didn't get a lot of opportunity to talk about my vision for the store. And if you'd like to discuss that, reach out on my cell at any time. Click send. Oh my gosh, I got to bullet point this out. They're going to call me any second. Never called me. Got the job. Oh, he has a vision for the store. Well, he can't really change anything anyway with this corporate structure, but he has a vision now. Okay. Give him a shot. Could save your bacon. They need to hear how excited you are. Wow, I'm excited. How I'm going to contribute to the team. What's our next step? Let's close today by talking about some of the mechanics of video setup. Here is, let's pull this center so you can see it a little bit larger. We're going to talk you through it. This is what my other half uses. Small table, pushed right up against the window. Lots of intense bright light. Now, I have hazel eyes. My eyes are a little sensitive to light. I really can't take staring out the bright window all day long and look at the computer at the same time. So I could take it for a little time as I'm standing in a light white storm, which you're going to see in a moment right here. But, you know, so pretty good things come out of this setup. Let's come back on screen in a smaller way here. Let's take a look at what else we have to look at here. Now, the secrets for video interviewing, most of us aren't very good. We have to really use the setup, whatever tool, Zoom, Meet, whatever. If you're going to look great, you have to have great lighting. So it can be this type of lighting that is supplied, or it can be something like this where I go, well, I really realize I have to elevate my computer a little bit. I have to get a light ring. By the way, this type of light ring has a little button on it so you can change the color tone. Little reddish, little yellow, little bluish, depending on how your camera is adjusting color to find out what looks great for you and the brand. Yep. As you see, we got to elevate our computer a little bit. If you'd like to sound great, you very likely need a condenser mic. Yeah, I know the computer has its own mic. Sounds pretty good. Does not sound as great as a condenser mic. You want to sound great? It's not very expensive to have a better mic. Think about that if you want. Also, you need to do it standing so you can free up your diaphragm. I did mention earlier standing in front of my ironing board. Well, there it is. My ironing board is sat right in the larger bedroom, right up against the bed rail, boxes stacked up on top of it. On top of that is the computer up at eye level. What you don't see here is now I have an external camera. A few lectures back, I still was not quite happy with my own video quality, going, I gotta up this game. This is not capturing at the level I'd like. And I realized I had to take the camera itself to a new level. Okay, so yeah, the camera itself, I have a plug-in camera on top of this setup. Think about what you're going to have to do. Here's a reverse look, so you can see a little bit of the back. I'm standing against a green screen. I'm literally standing between those boxes and the green screen. I have about a 1 square foot space. My feet really don't ever move, just they pivot and the body moves. And yet, wall's right there. I can lean against the wall if I need to, swapped out background. Also, look at my lighting setup. I have 3 large light boxes all the way around me, so that really, yep, my eyes are a little sensitive after a little more than an hour, and I am in a light storm. But gosh, that's the way you get cut out quite nicely from the background. That's the way you look nice on screen. Very, very important. Now, sometimes we need things like the clicker. Sometimes we need things like the coffee. We might need something like a handy tissue. There's lots of things. Maybe we need, just in case we get dry, a little bit of lip, whatever. You have to have some place to put all of that. It has to be handy. You may need a setup like this that I have with the stool next to it. Now, think of all of this together, and you're going to have to kind of learn to be comfortable in this new space, which also means getting comfortable not looking at the screen, but looking up directly into the lens of the camera as often as possible, getting away from your crutches. Now, if I'm preparing for an interview, I might like this to where there's a wall on the other side of me behind my computer. So literally all around the camera, I could put a few notes, and I could have my cheat sheet notes right up behind the camera, as long as I'm not too obvious going like this. So they read, we don't want to be too obvious, but think about what your setup might be. Well, brings us to the end of interview intervention today. I really appreciate you guys joining me. There's a lot that you can do to change the equation in your interview, and we're really just scratching the surface today. If you're not winning your interviews, and winning is getting that next round, eventually getting toward offers, which you may or may not want. If you're not getting that next round, consider working with a really great coach that knows how to get you ready to go in and sell yourself. Also, take a hard look at your resume, at your LinkedIn profile. Is your resume that single sheet of paper where it literally just jumps off the page for the reader? Reader's an interesting word these days because no one will actually read. Let me be extra clear. If I'm reinventing someone's background on a resume, there is not a single sentence anywhere on the resume. We don't live in that world any longer. If you're not sure of what to do with your resume, check out my resume renovation lecture over on YouTube. That will help you dramatically improve the effectiveness of your resume. But then you have to take that single sheet telling of the dazzling story, take it over as the skeletal system or backbone to LinkedIn, and somehow now transform it into the three-dimensional sales brochure. If you need help with any of that, package is right up on my website, SelfRecruiter.com, right under services, and happy to make you look dazzling as we work together. Thank you guys for joining in, and we will see you next Tuesday. Take care.